Well, I am death, none can excel. I'll open the door to heaven or hell. Ralph Stanley. O death, from O brother, where art thou? November is a month that shows us what comes after change. Gone are the colorful leaves and spooky celebrations of October. Gone are the corn stalks and beans from the farmers' fields, and pumpkins too. What remains are bare branches, brown grass, and a perpetual chill in the air, not yet icy, but a reminder of gratefulness for what has come before and what might come afterward. Remember me. I'm Tenet, a writer for a horror magazine called Mundane Macabre. I recently submitted a story about Sophie Tafas, the owner of a shop called Cinderella Curios. I revealed the dark secrets of her past and brought them into the present. In the process, I also wrote about the curator. He collects souls, or spirits, whatever is inside us that makes us unique ourselves. He comes for us when the time is right, and we must go with him. Sophie didn't, or she hasn't yet. He's looking for someone to take her place. Guess who? Supposedly, out of the kindness of her heart, Sophie gave me a discounted watch for my birthday. All it cost was $50, and my blood drawn every hour for 12 hours. In exchange, talent flowed through my veins instead of the hardening of one's creative arteries, known as writer's block. I finished my tale with 5 minutes to spare before the watch's hour hand struck 12. What did I do the next day? Try again, of course. My editor thought Sophie's collections was a hit, worthy of headlining the Halloween issue of Mundane Macabre. Second place, in her opinion, went to a Lovecraftian yarn called The Innsmouth Look. Third place went to It Has Wings, a tragedy from the first-person perspective of a cryptid, hated and hunted, seeking revenge in a nearly impenetrable forest. However, greedy paranormal investigators found it, fatally wounded it, and cut off its leathery wings as a trophy. The beast bled out and, with its last breath, forgave its killers. That story made me cry. As psyched as I was about my victory, I was also worried about my new addiction. Success is a drug, like cocaine or a dopamine hit from social media. More you have, the more you crave. I craved energy drinks, high ratings, and more talent. I had to shed more blood. So be it, I figured. That, and my fast-typing fingers, would save me instead of luck. When you earn your salvation by the hour, however, your time will run out. I had no idea how soon after not pushing the fateful button on my even more fateful watch for a couple of days, I was ready to get back to work. Upon finishing, We Chose Hell, a confession from someone in the fourth circle, I had trouble deciding what to write next. One of Mundane Macabre's readers liked the curator and wanted to know more about him. I said so on our website, and that comment got several likes. I hesitated. What more could I write about death that hadn't already been said? I could have him take Sophie, but I didn't want her to go. She said that we were too much alike. That's why I'd forgiven her for not telling me about the watch's real function or our mutual benefactor. I also knew that it wasn't her time to accompany him. It was mine. On Halloween, I got up early and started catering to an appetite about a member of a cannibalistic cult enduring their highest rituals. I won't repeat it here, it's too long. Having written it in 12 hours, it was both my masterpiece and my undoing. My fingers flew over the keyboard like never before, turning out words and sentences that sounded just right. None of them were clunky or awkward, and I made 0 typos, none, zip, nada. That was a miracle in and of itself. Even more amazing was how well the story flowed from beginning to the middle. But about the end, you ask? I never got there, you see. The process of being consumed by 12 other people takes a while, especially if they want to ensure their entree stays alive for as long as possible. As for the one being eaten, they know they're getting nearer to transcendence with every bite taken. They also know they're becoming part of their fellow members' bodies, which bestows a form of immortality upon them. The ritual guarantees some form of peaceful consciousness on the other side of the dinner platter. Okay? I reached the high point of the feast when I felt the sharpest pain in my wrist that I had ever experienced. I looked at my watch, and terror filled me. The hour hand pointed straight upward. Greetings, tenant. It couldn't be. Simply couldn't. Yet, here he was, the curator, in his fragile, earthly form, hiding an eternal one. You can't be here. Please, not yet, I cried. I sensed my visitor smiling, though he had no mouth. A familiar refrain. It's too soon for you, but not for me. I'm almost done. Just give me 5 more minutes. You are nowhere near finished. You've only reached the climax of your tale. That's just it. I have to see how it all plays out, to see it through to the end, as you have done many times before with my help. But your time is up. I thought I heard the distant chime of a grandfather clock, Cinderella's clock. Can't you take Sophie Toffus instead? The curator made a low sound resembling a chuckle. Sophie mentioned you, tenant. Okay, she said, without a moment's hesitation. I'm granting her request, but not mine. How? Why? Because you entered into a deal with me, time in exchange for talent, blood in exchange for time. So far, you've kept up your end, but you must still do so. Sophie and I have had our encounters at the crossroads. Our debts are paid. It's not you bargain day by day, and today you did not uphold your part. I choked up. I tried. As always, many have tried and been less successful than you. Be grateful for favors large and small. I gave you what you wanted. No, I'm not even dead, I blurted, before I realized the curator could fix that little problem. That presents an interesting dilemma for both of us. You see, I've guided countless spirits to and through the afterlife. I've never done that with any living being. When you come with me, you'll come in body, soul, and spirit through the realms I frequent. There are lessons you must learn before your proper time. Isn't this it? Do you want it to be? No? Then take my hand. Does yours have any open wounds? Shook my head, stretched out his palms, revealing 6 fingers with long, pointed nails. His flesh was ash gray and finely wrinkled. Can I at least turn my computer off? The curator inclined his formless head. His bluish-white eyes narrowed. I dashed over to my laptop and brought up Microsoft Word, which I had minimized. The last paragraph of catering to an appetite stared me in the face. The feast was nearly concluded. All that remained was the division and consumption of my beating heart. My 12 brothers and sisters licked their bloody lips in brute desire, yet I felt something far greater love for them and empathy for their compulsions. I knew them as intimately as I knew myself. Someday, one or more would undergo this same ritual. Would they be as brave and willing to be sacrificed? Perhaps that was the ultimate test. It's the point of the order of all flesh. Give what you have while you've still been given time. I hit enter, punched the caps lock key, and typed the end. It's too late. The curator gestured to my blood-infused watch, which was actually his. 12:10. Come with me. I must impose a penalty for your little trick. He grabbed my hand and pricked my palm with one of his serpentine nails. Okay, it only hurt for a fraction of a second before glacial ice filled me from the inside out. My guts froze within my rigid body, and goosebumps broke out all over me. The curator let go as soon as this sensation reached my hand, giving me a massive brain freeze. Now you know how I feel every minute of every hour of every day. Eternity is a cold, dark thing. My lips were chapped. I knew they'd be blue if I looked in a mirror. Please, release me. I cannot. I am as bound by our pact as you. We must leave immediately and go where? It's a gateway travel, where I first learned how to guide mortals. The curator offered his hand, against my better judgment. I took it, The cozy confines of my studio apartment vanished. In their place, the brochure-decorated walls of a travel agency surrounded us. All of the offices and cubicles were empty, though it seems deserted. Indeed, Mr. Plutus, the owner, has returned home and won't be back until further notice. He took all his employees with him. I used to work here. Plutus made me quite the offer until I found a better one. I gasped. Hades runs this place. No, that's Pluto. Plutus is the mythological god of wealth. Travel costs money not for him or you, okay? You're beginning to understand me and my kind. He took down a brochure on the far wall depicting a sunny meadow with a brook flowing through it and a cottage beside it. As beautiful as the image was, I couldn't quite believe it. It had probably been airbrushed. This isn't your idea of paradise. It's gorgeous, but it looks too good to be true. Perhaps somewhere closer to home would suit you. The curator led me to one of the cubicles. Unlike the others, it lacked decorno brochures, post-it notes, calendars, or snapshots of loved ones. It occurred to me that, once upon a time, this had been his workspace. The desk was clear. He reached into the pocket of his trench coat and brought out a set of keys. He inserted one into the middle desk drawer and opened it. Several photos were inside. The top one made me cry out. My grandma's house stood tall and proud, as it had been in my youth, instead of rotting and decrepit like it was now. Touch the picture, the curator said, and we'll go there. My palm shot out and slapped the photograph's glossy surface. I pressed down hard and shut my eyes tight, hoping against hope that his promise was true. When I opened them, I found myself in a heaven I could relate to. Grandma was seated in her favorite recliner below a sampler that read, "Worry is like a rocking chair. It keeps you busy, but gets you nowhere." She wasn't worried anymore. She beamed at me like it was Christmas morning. I dashed forward with my arms out to hug her. I passed right through her. "Alas," said the curator, "only her spirit is present. Her flesh is long gone." "It's okay, Annie." Grandma folded her transparent hands in her transparent lap. "I'm here with you in the only form that matters." "But why are you here?" I asked. "It's a long story." She paused. "Do you know my companion?" "Ma'am," said Grandma. "He took me in 1999. I remember like it was yesterday. I was in a hospital bed for so long, and then everything went dark, and cold. I woke to see the Savior, and he's brought me back here so I could see you. I knew you'd be here. I just didn't know when, or that you'd still be alive. Despite myself, I had to laugh. Me neither." Suddenly, the doorbell rang. "Did you get that, please?" Grandma asked. I opened the door to find my 3 aunts. My cousin who died of lung cancer, and my other grandma, my grandpa's, to one whom I'd known and loved, and one who died 4 years before I was born. My tears rolled down my cheeks. I knew they wouldn't be able to feel my hugs. However, they realized I loved them just the same. Kay beckoned their spirits into the house with open arms. "Welcome, welcome." Grandma stood to greet them. "Let us celebrate the arrival of one whom we love very much. She's come to see us after all this time." One of my aunts looked puzzled. "Wait a minute. She's not." She, Grandma, said, "The important thing is that she's with us for however long he allows." Grandma nodded toward the curator. My late relatives gave a collective shudder. "It's taken all of us," one said, "but she still has a chance to learn before she passes on." "Learn what?" I asked. My cousin floated forward. "Life is so precious, no matter how hard it may be. I know you face lots of obstacles at work and home, but you can meet them. You've been doing that every day. I'm so proud of you." "We all are." "I second that," said my unfamiliar grandpa. "When I heard you were coming, I couldn't get here fast enough. You're one of the best things that ever happened to my son. He loves you more than life itself. I wish I could have met you. Likewise." I've heard lots of stories about you, some funny, some sad, all good. We spent many a wonderful minute laughing, chatting, and catching up. Grandma told me about heaven proper, with singing angels and joyous souls praising God. My familiar. Grandpa mentioned all the conveniences of earth up there, even the telephone poles he used to climb. My aunts and cousins were delighted to report there were cats everywhere, purring and rubbing up against your legs and licking your hands if you petted them. Speaking of which, my late kitty, Sasha, appeared among the crowd, meowing and searching. For me, I tried hard not to cry as I cuddled him in my lap. He rubbed his head all over my hands and face, almost sticking his head in or through my mouth when he finally jumped off. I asked Grandma if I could see the curator and the Savior as she did. "I'm sorry," she replied, "but that can't happen until you've truly died. We've all had a wonderful visit, but I'm afraid it's time for you to go." I clung frantically to the curator. "What if I refuse? Can't stay," my cousin said. "In your current living body, you're not ready to be with us for more than this allotted time. If you insist on tarrying, we'll all disappear and return to our master. You'll remain here, alive and alone, forever." That sounds more like hell than heaven. "Oh, trust me, sweetie," said Grandma. "You don't want to go there yet. I know that's where the curator has in store next. Live your life to the fullest, with no regrets. Those will drive you crazy, as you've already found out. No matter what you've done or haven't done, we love you and will continue to guide. You think well of us and remember us always. I will. Thank you for everything. I love you." Grandma gave me one more spirit hug before she faded away, as did the others. "Boom," said the curator. "Time to move on. I don't want to go to hell. I know you're afraid, but 2 friends of mine are waiting for you there." I glanced at my wrist and noticed that the hour hand on my watch had struck 1. The walls of Gateway Travel reappeared, led me past the receptionist's empty desk, bearing the nameplate of Rachel, then through a maze of empty cubicles. The air conditioner was on full blast, where the curator's continued presence made the hairs on my arms and neck stand up straight. He led me to an emergency exit. "This is the entrance to the underworld. I must open it. Stay silent, and whatever you do, do not let go of my left hand." I clutched tighter. With his right, he reached toward the door and picked the lock with the nail of his index finger. The lock clicked, and the portal opened. The stench of decay hit me full in the face. I gagged and held my bile down. The curator led me down a seemingly endless flight of stone stairs. I was glad I was holding his hand to keep my balance. If I slipped and fell, I really would be dead. A lengthy corridor was at the bottom. I was tired from all my physical effort so far, and this gauntlet further exhausted me. Yet I kept pace with my guide, step by step, until we reached a vestibule lit by flaming violet torches. 2 monsters awaited. One was a beast with the head of a wolf and the nearly naked body of a man. The other had a human head, but a serpentine tail coiled neatly around his frame. I vaguely recognized them from reading Dante's Inferno in high school. "Greetings, Plutus," said the curator. "Greetings, Minos. We have a visitor, a live one." The wolf-headed creature grinned with rows of razor-sharp teeth. He sniffed the air. "One who doesn't have much money and never has, but also one who loves to spend. This will be perfect for my domain, don't you think?" The snake-tailed monster shook his head. "You may have had talent beyond your means in the past, but she's careful with money now. She has repented. I want her with me as a chronicler of sinners' confessions. This one pays amazing attention to detail." Minos leaned in close, and I could smell his rotten breath. "What say you?" he asked. I didn't say a word. The curator had told me to stay quiet. An unwise choice, Minos said. "What shall I show you to loosen your tongue and admit your wrongdoing?" Perhaps a glimpse of the second circle, where the lustful wander, a barren land buffeted by the winds of passion. Or shall I give you 2 Plutus in the fourth, where you'll push a massive bag of money with your chest and compete against misers in a never-ending jousting tournament? The fifth might suit you better, with your being slothful, and you'll gurgle beneath the sticks. He stared with glowing green eyes that had slits in the middle, like a snake's. Since you will not speak, I demand that you write your sins down on this parchment. Minos gestured to a chair and table with a scroll, a pot of ink, and a quill. That was the fee for entering the vestibule of hell while living. I realized the ink pot was empty when I sat down and picked up the quill. I braced myself, then pricked my palm with the pen's tip. One by one, I wrote down the transgressions I'd committed, the ink pot filling as I worked. Me, it was agony not least because I was still wearing the blood-infused watch. More intense than that pain or the shame and guilt I felt as I remembered each sin. Here a lie, there a carnal thought, there succumbing to greed or envy, hatred too. I thought I'd never finish. At last, my labors and the scroll came to an end. I gave the parchment to Minos with a hand shaking so badly that I almost dropped it. He read it in a flash. Seems to me, he said in a low, hissing voice, that your greatest sin is not one you've documented here. The one you haven't. Pride. I gasped. Why do you wear that timepiece? Is it not because of your vanity, your desire for skill with the written word? As much as I hated to admit it, I did. Then you are paradoxically fortunate. Pride is such a pervasive sin that it is not punished here, but in purgatory. It can be forgiven if not acted upon. However, you took it upon yourself to wager with death every day that your new talent would be sufficient to take you to the summit of your ambitions. Sadly, you have lost. That's why we're here. Securator, he continued. She's already been to heaven, and now it's her turn to face hell's horrors. Understandable, said Minos. However, in her living form, she is neither suitable for salvation nor damnation. What a pity, said Plutus. She's mine. She's still yearning for wealth and fame. And besides, you were once my employee, he reminded the curator. A travel agent, just like several others, toiling at my command, a shoe take. Both of you. But I cannot, he howled, curling his clawed hands into fists. She's mine, countered Minos. Due to her haughtiness, her insistence on promoting her own work, she will write down other sins and their stories forever. That would be a far more fitting punishment. Besides, said the curator, I'm her mentor and master. She belongs to me, and I say neither of you will have her. I outrank you both. Both monsters fell silent. Then Minos spoke again, unwinding a portion of his tale. I wish for you to witness the Lord of Darkness in his realm, the ninth circle. He is the most arrogant of all beings. His pride led him to turn against the Lord of Hosts. That is why he is also the greatest of traitors. Hold still, whelp, let me show you. Minos wrapped his tail around my body 9 times. I held tight to the curator's hand. A frozen lake stretched before me, with countless souls trapped inside. Many had their bowed heads and necks above the ice, weeping for their horrific fate. Many more lay beneath it, denied the luxury of movement, their bodies contorted in untenable positions. At the center of this expanse was Satan, a 3-headed, 3-mouthed dragon. He flapped his wings, creating a constant tempest and keeping the temperature at sub-zero levels. In each of his mouths, he chewed a famous betrayer, Brutus, Cassius, and Judas Iscariot. I heard his voice in my mind, ringing across the ice and making my sanity crack. Wretch, I have known you ever since your birth. Now you have come to me on my turf. Your every sin is written, not only on parchment, but within my boundless memory. There is no hole in this lake for you to slip into yet. However, Should you let go of death's hand, I'll welcome you to Casitas. You have betrayed God by being so prideful, just as I have. I'm sorry, I said. I am not. I never have been. I do not weep for myself, and neither will you. The devil raised his central head and stared right into the core of my spirit. I screamed. The curator pulled me back and out of the grasp of Mino's tail. His coil fell away from my body. I fell to my knees. Please forgive me, Lord. Forgive me. He's not present here, sneered Minos. Now that you've got more than a glimpse of our Lord and Master, will you agree to my sentence instead? I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I could hardly breathe. She cannot, while under my care, said Death. My apologies. He knelt next to me. Are you ready to move on to your repentance? I barely had enough time to remember I couldn't speak here and nodded furiously. Farewell, friends, he told Plutus and Minos. I hope we won't see you again. While he and I returned to the surface, the two aberrations argued over whose fault it was that we were escaping. Their shouts and growls echoed all the way up the stairs. With all his might, the curator yanked open the emergency exit door to Gateway Travel. We scrambled back inside. That was close. I couldn't help but scream when Satan looked at me. But no, if you would have said one word, you would have been his. Thank you for rescuing me. You're welcome. Minos is a devious fellow, but he can't trick me. My wrist pulsed in pain. I saw that my watch's hour hand pointed to 2. Where to next? I asked the curator. He brought me to the only window inside the agency. What's the weather like? Gray and cloudy, like it's going to rain? Let me open it. Once more, he made the lock yield with his pointed nail. Climbed through, the supreme amount of effort. Pushing and pulling. I made it through the window onto a long dirt path. My protector followed me effortlessly. This way. He led me beneath the overcast sky to another flight of stairs. Like the other one, this one was covered with muddy footprints and trails of blood. An acrid smell told me someone had pissed. Here, too. Ah, these steps are worse than the ones that led to hell. That's because this is purgatory. Notice the bucket bar of soap and scrub brush over there. Here, you'll wash away your sin of pride. You can't do that in hell, because hell is for the hard of heart and mean of spirit. You told the devil you were sorry. Did you mean it? With all my heart. Prove it. Climb all the way up. Then scrub all the way down. Okay? I'll meet you here when you're done. One word of complaint, and you'll have to start again. Okay? If you encounter a sinner with muddy, bloody feet, you may treat them as you will, but the mess will be the same. Farewell for now, Cinderella. As he said the last bit, I found myself in rags with no shoes on my feet. I picked up the cleaning supplies and started climbing. The ascent took so long that I thought the curator had pulled a fast one, and these stairs actually went on forever. Besides, I let others pass me on their way up, grated our teeth and bit our tongues, knowing that grumbling would send us straight to the bottom. Held all my emotions in, but one thing I couldn't keep holding was my bladder. I too relieved myself on the steps, knowing I'd have to wash it off. When I finally reached the top, I sat down and took a breather. Rain began to fall. It filled up my bucket. It's time to get to work. As I scrubbed, I sang every song I knew relating to hardship and challenge, from Sing Sweet Nightingale from Disney's Cinderella to Via Dolorosa, by Sandy Patty to the opening theme of Divinity, Original Sin 2. I tried to whistle while you work, but I couldn't whistle. I could only warble. My words were swallowed by rumbling thunder. This task was grueling, but I empathized with the ones who climbed. They had it much worse than I did. I cried out words of hope and encouragement, and they smiled back. The torment was less than just a tiny bit, but it meant the world to us. Even purgatory didn't stand a chance when we cheered each other on. The final stair approached. It was the dirtiest by far. I scoured it with all my strength, and even some from beyond. The curator waited when I finished. He embraced me. Congratulations, you've completed your trial successfully, with time to spare. Huh? It's a grandfather clock in my watch read 2:55 5 minutes until 3 a.m. Are we done traveling? Can I go home, please? One more vista, we must explore my home plane, beyond space and time. Recite the phrase that H.P. Lovecraft wrote about death, if you would. I cleared my throat. That is not dead, which can eternal lie, and with strange eons, even death may die. Correct? Both of us are living on borrowed time. Oh no, how much do we have left? 1 hour. Then you must come to a decision, and it shall be everlasting. We return to the foyer of Gateway Travel. See the clock above Rachel's desk. It also reads 2:55. Press it as hard as you did with the picture of your grandmother's house, and we'll move beyond the boundaries of time and space. The only thing that'll hold us to our current state is my watch on your wrist. Again, do not let go of my left hand. I obeyed his instructions. Not only did our surroundings blur and warp, but I couldn't remember whether I went to heaven before or after hell and purgatory. The very concept of time was becoming more and more vague. Maybe it always had been. Strange shapes coalesced into squat buildings and spindly towers. Black stars hung overhead in a chartreuse sky. Lost spirits meandered aimlessly, searching for landmarks, but finding none in this labyrinthine city. As we made our way along the cobblestone streets, I heard the wandering shades mumble in a language unknown to me. The curator translated, "Hastur is here. No one can flee." "Do you mean the king in yellow, one of Lovecraft's great old ones?" The curator nodded. "Oh dear, what is this place, and why are we here? Must travel through Carcosa to the other side, where I made my decision." Wondered which one he was talking about. The choice to live on Earth, maybe. Okay. A group of cultists in saffron yellow robes appeared. I didn't want to follow them. I resisted with every fiber of my being, planting my feet, but the curator pulled me along. They repeated the phrase, "Hastur, Hastur," along with a new one. The crowd comes to Hastur to hear him speak. Should we be doing this? Aren't we walking into a trap? It's the only way. Those acolytes know the location of the black jade obelisk within the furthest spire. That's what we need to reach. As terrified as I was that we'd be discovered, an instinctive part of me was curious about this sect and the eldritch horror they worshipped. From what I remembered of Hastur, he sought power over artists, playwrights, and storytellers. The author of The King in Yellow was reported to be possessed while writing the manuscript. Good thing I'd already made my bargain, which being was more powerful though. The cultists trudged along a steep incline toward one of the towers. It wasn't the tallest, but it was the most oddly shaped, like the serrated edge of a saw blade. The sky above roiled with yellowish-green clouds. I wondered if it would rain here, like it did in Purgatory. I was still wearing rags, and if they got wetter, I'd be miserable indeed. Several of the lost souls I saw earlier joined us. They stared straight ahead at rapt attention, like soldiers in an army. Though they didn't march, they shambled and scrambled as they made the climb, driven by a compulsion they didn't understand or perhaps they did. That was even worse. "Keep going," said the curator. "We're almost there." The cultists passed under a vaulted archway and came up to a set of doors. I could neither see nor hear the leader, but there was a pause before they opened. Perhaps one of them painted a sign in blood to let their fellow priest enter. They barely made it inside before the door slammed shut, the sound ringing in my ears. We were in some sort of vestibule, like in hell, but this one was lit by red lamps. They made the cultists' robes appear bright orange. They formed a line, one after another. They approached the platform and were lifted up to another level of the tower. Okay, we took our turn without faltering. Okay, one mistake here meant a fate worse than death, even for my companion. Okay, I felt his wrinkled hand tremble in mine. We saw a figure at the front of a vast throne room, an octopoid being in a hooded yellow robe. The novices bowed down before him, chanting, "Hastur, Hastur," in unison. We fell flat to the ground, but did not follow suit. We couldn't. Voice of the king in yellow filled our mutual consciousness. He did not speak. He sang, and the music that came from his faceless maw nearly drove me mad. His notes were both higher and lower than any human had a right to hear. The crescendos made my body shake all over. The curator seemed less affected, but even he was scared. When Hastur gestured for us to rise, we did so and dispersed. The two of us had to get out of there as fast as possible before we were found out. We used the cultists and lost souls as camouflage, ducking and weaving among them until the curator pointed out an exit. We dashed through it to find ourselves in a room with a high ceiling, blue-lit wall sconces, and a massive obelisk of black jade in the middle. Unfortunately, one of Hastur's thralls had followed us. He raised a knife and headed straight for me. The curator reached out and touched him. He fell over dead. When I recovered from the shock of this display of power, my guide explained, "This is nephrite, the sacred gem of the outer gods, and those such as myself. It is hailed as the dreamstone for its spiritual properties." I first saw this monument in a dream back when I was an agent at Gateway Travel. I read the inscriptions on it and realized that if I touched it, I could venture far beyond Earth. In the universe of locations, even conventional space-time can't touch. I learned how to guide others through these instructions. I even learned how to die once I'd become death. That was the price I had to pay. But even I won't last forever. Strange eons are passing as we speak. My time draws near. You, mean yes. You have a decision to make, and it is final. You not only wear my watch, but bear my mark. Your body, soul, and spirit no longer pertain to the mortal world. You can either accept death and enter heaven with your late friends and loved ones, or become the next curator. If you choose the latter, eventually you must find someone else to pass the torch to. Think long and hard before you decide. Would I take your place? I've literally been to hell and back. Mine is a work of great compassion, even when a spirit must face damnation or a long purification process. At least they will have moved on from your world. There is progress on both the higher and lower planes of existence, whether to keep rising or falling. I have progressed as much as I am able. Now I face my own demise. I may not have lived the best life, but I've paid for it through being the best avatar of death that I can be. Please, let me sleep, dear tenant, knowing that countless spirits will be safe with you. You have willing hands and a good heart. If I die without a replacement, no one will move on. The dead themselves will rise in righteous indignation that will doom every world, including this one. What about Sophie Tophus, the one who got me into this mess in the beginning? Funny you should ask. She died this early morning at 1 a.m. of natural causes. Her heart failed her, and her spirit passed on to purgatory. Don't worry, she'll be fine. Despite everything she and her gift had put me through, I shed a few tears. Have you come to a resolution? The curator asked as the hour approached. I took a deep breath. If what you say is true, I'll take your place. Then touch the obelisk. Hurry, I feel myself fading away. I pressed my palm to the cold black stone. Endless landscapes filled my mind, from the purple mountain majesties and fruited plains of the United States to the ancient cities of Europe, to the fabled plateau of Ling. All of the beings in all of these worlds breathed a sigh of relief, whether they were alive, dead, or some state in between. They knew I'd come for them in the end, to bring them rest. The curator had disappeared, leaving his fedora and trench coat behind. I put them on. My watch was still ticking. I must return to Earth. I have work to do. November is for gratitude, for all the risks you've taken during the year. I've risked everything tonight to save an entity intent on claiming me. Here's hoping we'll both find peace.